Hello, everyone. This is me, Pastor Stephen of Healthy Expressions. I'm here to help you have a healthy relation, make a healthy relationship or a healthy marriage. I'm glad that you can join me and watch this. I hope that you've been watching the last few weeks. It's been very interesting that I'm slowly progressing into becoming more comfortable on the screen, better with more of the technical stuff in the background. But I'm glad that you're joining me. So we have an interesting topic today, and it's about how to argue in a healthy way. And there are definitely an unhealthy way to argue. And that unhealthy way that we've seen in our personal lives, we've seen it on TV, we've seen it in movies, is people just lose it. They scream, they yell. And when you do that, you are led by your emotions, right? Even if one person is yelling, another person is just shutting down, doesn't say anything, doesn't want to be in contact, doesn't want to engage in that conversation or argument. So there's that unhealthy way, because this is the first tip. When you argue, most people argue, they are led by their emotions. And when you're led by your emotions, right? Yeah, and you know this, when you're led by emotions, you say and do a lot of stupid things. And you harm yourself, you harm other people with your words, with your actions. And that's all led by your emotions. And I think if you can control your emotions and really not let this decide in the argument, but really this, your mind, really thinking and deciding that you are not going to be engaged in a negative way in that argument. And so I think I always say this to all my couples that I work with, that there's only one thing that you can control, and that is yourself. You can't control your job, the kids, the weather, nothing. And especially, you can't control the other person, your significant other or your spouse. What you can control is you. You cannot react in emotion. You must not react, you must act. So that means that even when sometimes the other person, maybe they're led by emotion and they're saying something hurtful or nasty, my advice is do not engage that. Say that maybe we need to kind of calm our emotions and then we can talk about this again. But a lot of couples, they are led by this, their emotion. You can't do that. You have to use this. And so I'm going to give you 3 tips, just three tips on how to argue in a healthy way. And so, what is the first tip? And again, arguing in a healthy way, because here's the thing. It's funny when you meet someone, maybe it's another family member or a close friend or a coworker, and they say, "Oh, we never fight." That is false. And they may not be thinking that it's an argument or a fight, but definitely the other person does. And so we are going to remember that no matter how long you're married, no matter how long you're with that other person, you will always argue. You will always argue until the end of time. The reason is because we're imperfect people, right? We're imperfect people. As a Christian myself, I call that sin, because and people think that sin is just doing bad things, right? Sin is in everything in this world that is wrong, that is hurtful, that is negative. And one of them is um, in a healthy way, arguing with one another that doesn't produce fruit, that does nothing except to harm the other person. Now, think about this. People engage in arguments to hurt the other person, right? Maybe initially they're thinking, okay, we want to fix this issue, we want to fix this problem. But what tends to happen most of the time is we then get agitated, frustrated, and then we want to hurt the other person. We want to hurt their feelings. Maybe we want to hurt their pride. And so that's an unhealthy way in that way. You have to control your emotions. You have to say, okay, let's build a system together. Let's build a way where we can, what? Argue in a healthy way to find a solution. And here's the funny thing. You know, maybe in the beginning, you know what you're fighting about and you're disagreeing. But then when the emotion starts kicking in, and then you start saying nasty things, and another person says nasty things back to you, then you tend to forget what you were fighting about in the first place. Because this is what normally happens. When you start getting into an argument with the other person, and if you notice this, it seems like all the old stuff in the past comes right back up. For example, you have a married couple and the guy wants to watch, something, sporting event, but the wife wants to watch something else. And of course, you always have little disagreements. But then for some reason, that little disagreement starts into this huge fight where both the husband and wife, or the two people, they start to bring out all the old stuff from the past. Do you know what that means? It means that the couple never found a solution to that issue. They didn't. And so what we call sweeping things underneath the rug, right? We just maybe fight about it, and maybe we don't talk to each other for a little bit, but we never go back to, and you may even apologize to one another, but you never go back and to kind of dissect it and say, okay, let's build a system of how we can argue in a healthy way, maybe use that formula for the next time we fight, we can use maybe that same system. But when you sweep things underneath the rug and you don't, find a solution, the next time you fight, there's a good opportunity that all those other issues that you fought about in the past, they come up like a backed up toilet. I know that's disgusting, but it comes all the way back and both people are frustrated and they start throwing stuff. You remember last week and some people will go all the way back to for years and years. And it becomes not a disagreement about what to watch on TV, but it becomes this huge argument. I don't know about you, but I'll have to admit it, but one of my favorite movies is Titanic with Leonardo DiCaprio and I think Kate Winslet. And that's the famous story of the actual story of the Titanic, right? Hitting a glacier, hitting an iceberg, and then sinking. Well, people don't know this, but when you see an iceberg or glacier, right, it's huge, right? It's huge. But you only see 10% of it because it's sticking up. You only see 10%. 90% is below the water, so it is massive. And so when couples are fighting over a small little disagreement and then it blows up into this huge, huge World War III war, it's because there's something underneath the water, 90%. And so I want you to be honest, right? And really ask yourself, every time you fight with your significant other or your spouse, does it seem like everything from the past comes back up? And if that's the case, it means that things weren't resolved. And that any little thing will cause all those other stuff, the hurt feelings, the anger, the frustration to come back to the surface. But I have 3 tips to help you in your relationship or marriage to have a healthy argument. Now, this is not going to be easy. And you're not going to get this right away like this. Bad habits are hard to change, right? Bad habits are hard to change. My father, I want to say he used to be a smoker, but he cut down a lot. I mean, he started smoking cigarettes when he was 14 or 15, and he's 80 years old. I remember myself, my sister, and my mom begging him to stop smoking because of his health. And he said, yeah, right? And, but we knew he didn't stop because when he came home, you could smell the smoke on him. See, he's doing better, you know, he smokes less, but he still smokes. Bad habits are hard to break. And the key to the success and peace in your relationship or marriage is to really, really be able to argue in a healthy way where you find a solution together. Part of the reason of being together with somebody else or being in a marriage, part of your job is to find solutions together, to navigate, to maneuver through this crazy world called life. And so, first tip, right? Again, this is going to be hard, but if you practice this with your partner, with your spouse, you'll slowly get better. So we're going to change how you argue. The first thing that you must do is somebody has to call a timeout. Now, this timeout, someone has to say it. You're starting to get really frustrated and upset, or you notice that the other person is slowly getting angry and upset, and you have to say, or the other person says, timeout. So when you say a timeout, then for 30 minutes, you separate. Not 3 hours, not 3 days, not 3 weeks, but 30 minutes. And so one of you could go in the bedroom, the other person could go in the living room or even outside. 30 minutes to calm down. Now, let me be very, very specific here. You are there for 30 minutes to calm down. You're not there to think of witty comebacks. You're not there to dissect what you're going to say and dissect what they said. Those 30 minutes is for you to calm down. And so you calm down, you set your emotions low, and then after 30 minutes, you come back. You come back, and this is the second thing you do. You have to put your emotions in the back seat. Remember, this has to control the conversation, the argument, not this, your emotions. And so if you're able to, if you're more emotional, if you are kind of, get angst up, then this is going to be a huge challenge for you. But you must be able to control your emotions, or every time you engaged with the other person, it will likely turn out to be a bad argument. Now, what couples usually do is like a boxing match, right? I say something to you, I try to hurt your feelings, I hurt your pride, and what the other person does is block, and they come back with, they say something, they attack them. So basically it's attack, block. It just goes back and forth like a bad ping pong or tennis match. It just goes back and forth. Nothing gets resolved. No one says, hey, let's stop doing this and let's try to fix this. And that's something that we have to remember, is that our pride is pretty strong, right? When someone says I'm not prideful or stubborn, I'm prideful, I'm stubborn. Ask my wife. She is too. We're all prideful and stubborn. And don't let your stubbornness and your pride break up a marriage or break up a very significant relationship in your life. Be humble enough to apologize. Be humble enough to listen. Be humble enough to work it out and find a solution together. Divorce rate is 50% because there's a lot of prideful and stubborn people that said, you know what, it's not my fault. It's the other person's fault. Guess what? It takes two people to make a marriage good. It takes the same two people to make it bad. So what's the first thing? Someone has to call a timeout. You separate for 30 minutes, right? That 30 minutes is to calm down, not to think of witty comebacks. After you come back in 30 minutes, the second thing you do is you put your emotions in the back seat. And that's hard for, like I said, the emotional people. You need to control your emotions so you can really, really listen and hear what the other person has to say. Listen and hear what they're really saying. And the third thing, which is very important out of the three, is you have to state the issue. State the issue. Like I said earlier, what couples do is they attack. Even when they try to explain why they're upset. Well, you do this. Well, you did that, or you said that. It goes back and forth. What you need to do is clarify why your feelings were hurt, why you're so upset, why you're so angry. You explain it to the other person. You state the issue instead of attacking that person. So for example, if one of you has cleaned the house or the apartment, and your significant other, your partner or your spouse comes home and they just, they come home and they just take out the dirty shirt and throw it, and it's clothes are everywhere after you just cleaned it. Well, you could say, well, you're such a pig, or you're so messy, or you're so lazy. I just cleaned this apartment or house. You just don't care, do you, what I do? See what you're doing? You are not stating the issue, you're attacking the person. And with anybody, when you attack that person, they defend and they attack back, always. When you offend someone, they will defend and attack back. So in that same scenario, the person who cleaned the apartment or the house, their significant other or their spouse comes home, takes off their dirty clothes everywhere, and the person goes, I just finished cleaning the apartment or house. Could you please, put your clothes away? That would be very helpful. If you say it that way and you state the issue and say, your messiness is making me annoyed. And if you could, just put your clothes in the hamper, that would be helpful. See, if I'm listening to that, if I'm the person who's just, coming home from work, just putting throwing my clothes around, and I hear the first statement, the first way, we're fighting. But if I hear the second way, and I hear that the other person says things out of respect and states the issue, I'll say, I'm sorry. I didn't know you just cleaned the apartment in the house. Let me get my clothes and do that. And you see right there that it doesn't blow up into this huge argument or fight. State the issue. Let's go over those three things again. Number one, if you guys are engaging, discussing, then slowly builds to an argument, you're feeling ugh, or you see that the other person is frustrated, you just have to say time out. And you separate for 30 minutes. One person goes to the bedroom or kitchen, another person goes to the living room or outside, bedroom, whatnot. You separate. In that 30 minutes, you calm down your emotions. You don't try to say something sarcastic or witty to the other person. You calm down. Number two, after 30 minutes, you come back and you put your emotions in the back seat. Because if your emotions are in the driver's seat, again, you will say and do stupid things because you're hurt, you're angry, you're upset. You need to put it in the back seat and let this work through the argument. And then there's number three, you state the issue. You don't attack the other person. You don't call them names. You don't, try to make them feel worse. You just state the issue. You say, I'm upset, or I'm angry, or I'm sad or hurt because you did this or you said this. So we want in the relationship or marriage to always let there be respect and encouragement. See, when I see couples fighting, sometimes I do that. Sometimes my wife and I, we do this. Whenever we engage in an unhealthy way, an unhealthy argument, it just seems like the picture or the image that comes to mind is elementary school. In elementary school, you had recess. And sometimes you would see two kids, jawing at each other. My dad could beat you up, or you're ugly, or you're stupid, or whatever derogatory name that they could call each other. And then maybe they start pushing each other. That's what I imagine in my head when I argue with my wife in an unhealthy way. It's immature. It's childish. And for some of us, we have to learn to grow up. And one of those ways is to argue in a healthy way, in a mature way, to tell the other person, I felt disrespected, or I felt hurt, or I felt frustrated. And you're telling this to the other person. And when you're telling this to the other person in a respectful way, in a way that is not demeaning, in a way that you're not attacking them, in a way where you're trying to show them respect, you're not going to get disrespect and nasty comments back. Take a step back and realize, if you could look at your last few arguments and if they've been very unhealthy, rather than thinking about what the other person did or their faults or their mistakes, you start to think, what was your part in that? What was your part in that disagreement, that argument getting really, really nasty and starting to become very unhealthy? Right? Again, you can only control yourself and not the other person. So for most part, when people look back at the last few arguments and that they're honest with themselves and they're really trying to make the relationship or the marriage better, they'll admit their fault. They'll say, that is my fault. I did do that wrong. And I'm not too proud of it. And once they realize, again, once their emotions are down or low or they're gone, they will start to think back and say, I played a part of that disagreement or the argument getting really bad, really unhealthy. So those are the 3 tips to really better your relationship or marriage, by arguing in a healthy way. And like I said in the very beginning, you will always argue because we're 2 different imperfect people coming together. We're trying to, meld our 2 lives together, and sometimes it's messy and it's difficult and it's challenging. And I really want you to try to My goal is that you would really, if you're watching this, is to really make your relationship marriage healthy, to not follow how other unhealthy couples or marriages look around you. Maybe in your own family, maybe your neighbors or your best friends or your coworkers. You don't want that. You want a healthy relationship or marriage. Well, it's time to change. And it starts with the person that's looking in the mirror, and that's yourself. So I really want to challenge you to do that. And if you have any questions, and if you have any more tips that you want, um, at the end of these videos, the end of the show is my website. I want you to look at it. Look at it. It is has all my information. It has the prices, the package programs, and has a free webinar, right? Even if you don't intend to contact me, watch the free webinar. I think it's about 27 minutes. And I think I titled it 10 Healthy Habits for a Healthy Relationship. Look at it. Watch it. Watch it with your significant other. Watch it with your spouse. I think one of your goals should be wanting to have a healthy relationship or marriage. And I hope that that webinar, or even if you contact me, that I can help you in that process. And so the next time you engage, next time you feel like you're going to argue, the next time you feel like it's getting a little bad, remember these tips. Because I know this is obvious, but the person next to you, the person that you love and you want to spend the rest of your life with, they're not your enemy. They may seem like your enemy during these arguments and fights. But again, that's emotion. That's making you think that they're against you or they don't love you or care about you. Take control of your emotions. If you can take control of your emotions, then you're able to control the way your discussions, your conversations, and most importantly, your arguments are going to be. So I'm happy that you could watch this. Pray that and hope that you would tell others. Have a great week. I'll see you next week, and make your relationship or marriage healthy again. Okay, I'll talk to you then. Bye.